Every time Alexander cheated on me, he would give me a gold bracelet. We've been married for 3 years, and I've received 33 in total. Come to think of it, he hasn't given me a ride for half a year. But it's not because he's had a change of heart. It's because the woman from 6 months ago, he's still keeping her around. Chapter 1. Today is our wedding anniversary. 3 hours ago, Alexander sent me a location. It was a hotel room. The room was romantically decorated. The white bed was covered in red roses, seductive and mysterious. I waited from dusk until dark, but Alexander never showed up. I texted him, and 3 minutes later, he replied with just words, "I'm busy." I knew exactly what he was busy with. He was busy sweet-talking his little side chick. Half an hour ago, I got a message from her, a room number, and a photo of Alexander in nothing but a towel, water still dripping from his bare chest. This kind of message, I've received many over the past 6 months. And right now, Alexander is just next door. I didn't storm in to expose the affair like the stereotypical scorned wife. I didn't even ask him why he stood me up. I simply checked out of the room, went home calmly, and began packing my things. Just as I finished, Alexander walked in. He was holding a huge bouquet of red roses and wrapped his arms around my waist tenderly from behind. "Sorry about today. Work was hectic. I'll make it up to you tomorrow, okay?" His familiar scent wrapped around me. He had just been in another woman's bed, yet not a trace of her lingered on him. He was always so careful, meticulous. Even his cheating was done with precision, just so I wouldn't notice. If Jenny hadn't told me the truth, I might have stayed in the dark my whole life. Jenny is the side chick Alexander's been keeping for the past 6 months. She's also his assistant. She was the one buying those gold bracelets on Alexander's orders. She knew about every single one of his affairs, but only decided to expose him when it was finally her turn. I stepped out of Alexander's embrace and looked at him closely. Those eyes that once overflowed with affection now had a flicker of guilt. The seductive bouquet of roses in his hands felt more like mockery of the years we spent together. "No need," I said. When it really came down to goodbye, I was calmer than I expected. Alexander raised an eyebrow. "Then, tonight?" The air was heavy with ambiguity. His hands, hot like fire, ignited every part of my skin they passed. I gently pushed his hand away. I was just about to talk to him about getting a divorce, when his phone rang at the worst possible moment. He glanced at the screen, guilt flashing in his eyes. "I need to take this." Chapter 2. The figure standing on the balcony was tall. He had once promised me the world with the same unwavering confidence. When no one believed in our love, he was the only one who held my hand and swore, "This life, it had to be me. No one could tear us apart. Just to see me." He once defied his parents and jumped from the 2nd floor. He told me that he would only ever love me. Without me, he said, he'd die. And yet it was the same man who, after answering a phone call, rushed to tell me nervously, "Baby, something happened to a friend. I have to head out. Don't wait up tonight. Get some rest." He was in such a hurry that he almost tripped over his own feet as he stumbled out the door. I sat on the sofa for a long time, until my whole body went numb, until my heart slowly turned cold. I had planned to talk to Alexander about everything tonight, but judging from the look of things, he probably wouldn't come home for days. Maybe that's for the best. I could use the time to move out quietly without creating a scene. I moved out quickly and had a lawyer draft a divorce agreement, which I sent to Alexander's office. But a week passed, and I hadn't received a single call from him. I started to wonder if the delivery was sent to the wrong address. Maybe he never got it. So I picked up the phone, ready to talk to him myself. When the call connected, it was a woman's voice that answered. "Bianca." "Sis, Alexander's in the shower. Is there something I can help with?" "He's not at the office?" I asked. Jenny gave a soft laugh, hesitated, then said, "Well, I had signs of a miscarriage a few days ago. So Alexander's been staying with me the whole time." "Miscarriage?" Jenny was pregnant? With Alexander's child? We've been married 3 years, and my mother-in-law had hinted more than once that it was time to have a baby. But Alexander always said he wanted more time with just the two of us, that there was no rush, that things should happen naturally. But now, he'd kept someone else's child? It felt like the blood in my veins froze. My teeth clenched so hard I could hear them crack. Jenny let out a surprised little "oh," then added, "Bianca, wait. Alexander didn't tell you? I thought he would still cover it up like before, saying he was on a business trip or something. So all those so-called business trips over the last 6 months, they were lies." I closed my eyes and said coldly, "When he's free, have him call me, or you can tell him yourself. It's just a divorce, nothing dramatic." I couldn't hang up fast enough. I got up and started pacing. I couldn't calm down. I couldn't pretend I didn't care. How could someone who once said we were each other's everything turn out to be this disgusting? The name Alexander felt like a giant boulder, crushing the air out of my chest. I needed to do something to cool off. I dug out an old email from a few months ago. It was about a rural teaching program, a 3-year commitment. Back then, when the principal contacted me, I'd rejected it right away. I was married to Alexander and thought maybe it was time to add a little one to the family. I had even started preparing for pregnancy. But Alexander kept using work as an excuse and kept postponing everything. Now, I didn't need to prepare for anything anymore. I had plenty of time to work. When the principal heard I had changed my mind, he slapped his thigh in joy and immediately reassigned me. Time was tight. I had to leave tomorrow. The teaching site was remote. Going back and forth for divorce proceedings would be exhausting and not worth it. So, I handed everything over to my lawyer, packed my bags, and headed to the train station the next day. The station was packed, and the lines at the ticket gates were long. I followed the crowd, double-checking the train number on the screen. Suddenly, my phone rang. It was Alexander. The moment I answered, I heard his tired voice. "Baby, where did you go? All your stuff is gone." When I packed, I took everything, cleared out my belongings, threw away what I couldn't take. The only things I left were those 33 gold bracelets, sitting untouched in the drawer. A night had passed, and I was much calmer facing Alexander now. "I've left," I said plainly. "The divorce papers were sent to your office. If there's anything else, talk to the lawyer. I've handed everything over." The other end of the line went silent for a moment, followed by the sound of drawers being flung open. Then Alexander's panicked voice came through. "What are you saying? We were fine. Where are you going? Divorce? What are you even talking about?" I froze for a second. So Jenny hadn't told him about that phone call. Watching the line grow shorter in front of the gate, I spoke with patience. "Alexander, I know about you and Jenny, and about the story behind every single one of those 33 bracelets." She told me everything. "You've been unfaithful to us for a long time. I'm tired. Alexander, I want out." Chapter 3. I could hear Alexander's breathing grow heavier on the other end of the line. The sound of a train pulling into the station echoed around me. Suddenly, he spoke with urgency. "Bianca, where are you?" I heard the rustle of clothes and then a dull thud, the sound of a door slamming shut. I knew Alexander was trying to find me, but I didn't want to see him anymore. "Alexander, don't come looking for me. I don't want to see you. If you feel guilty, then just divorce me. Let's give each other some dignity." I hung up the call and scanned my ID to enter the station. The platform was packed with people, many of them couples heading out on trips. Boys carried the luggage while chatting with their girlfriends about where to eat and what to do once they arrived. It reminded me of the past. Back when Alexander and I were still students, we didn't have much pocket money, so we had to save up for every little trip. But we looked forward to each one like it was the highlight of our lives. Because those trips belonged to just us. We could talk non-stop from departure to arrival, always full of joy and anticipation. But this time, I was traveling alone. My phone buzzed again and again, every call and message from Alexander. "Bianca, where are you? Please hear me out. I wasn't thinking straight. I was wrong. I'll change. Please don't leave. Baby, let me talk to you in person. Just give me a chance to explain." But with the truth laid bare, explanations sounded empty. I switched my phone to airplane mode and shut my eyes, not wanting to think anymore. As the train started to move, the station broadcast suddenly came alive with a hoarse voice. "Bianca, it's me, Alexander. I know I messed up, but please give me a chance to explain everything, okay? My love, I'm begging you, please don't leave me." His voice was shaking, thick with emotion and short breaths. It usually took half an hour to get from our home to the station. Alexander had made it in under 15 minutes and had even found a way to broadcast a message over the PA system. He was always intense, always someone who stopped at nothing once he set his mind to something. But this time, he was bound to be disappointed. The train rolled forward, his voice still echoing through the speakers. People whispered all around me, murmuring about the drama unfolding in real life. Finally, the train picked up speed, and the announcements went silent. I knew then Alexander and I would never see each other again. Chapter 4. The village I was assigned to teach in was a small, remote one in the north. The area was underdeveloped, and there were no tall buildings, just rows of brick houses. The school had only 2 classes in total. The one I was responsible for had just 8 students. Their cheeks were flushed red, and the first time we met, they looked at me timidly, full of curiosity. I smiled gently and said, "Hello, everyone. I'm your new teacher. My name is Bianca Mu." No one responded. They stared at me for a while, then began whispering among themselves. The head teacher, Mario, scratched his head awkwardly and said, "Don't mind them, Miss Mu. They're just curious, no harm meant." I smiled and shook my head. It was understandable. This was a fairly isolated place. Of course, the kids were curious about outsiders. Mario clapped his hands loudly, and the classroom quieted immediately. He stood at the front and announced, "Everyone, this is our new teacher, Miss Mu. She's going to teach you and tell you about the world beyond our village. Let's give her a warm welcome." At his words, the room erupted in applause. The children smiled at me, bright and innocent, full of warmth. After school, I went back to the dormitory, unpacked, ordered a few essentials online, and finally lay down to rest. I was dozing off when my phone started ringing. Without checking the caller ID, I answered. No one spoke. Just as I was about to hang up, thinking it was a scam call, a raspy voice came through. "You went north to teach." It wasn't a question. I snapped awake, sitting up in bed in an instant. Alexander's voice was clenched, almost growling. "Bianca, answer me. Did you go up north to teach?" I froze. "Yes." Alexander laughed, bitterly. "For how long?" 3 years. I said honestly. There was nothing to hide. I was already at the school. It was done. Nothing could change it now. He murmured. 3 years. You're leaving me for 3 years. Not just 3 years, I said as I looked out at the night sky, calm and firm. It's for a lifetime. Chapter 5. There was a long silence. Then Alexander finally spoke in a low, disbelieving voice. "Do you even know what you're saying? A lifetime, do you know how long that is? Bianca, have you forgotten everything we went through to be together? How can you give up so easily?" Of course I hadn't forgotten the past, but I also remembered, just as clearly, everything Alexander had done since we got married. My throat was dry. I poured a glass of water and took a sip before I replied softly. "Then what about your cheating, Alexander? Those 33 gold bracelets in the drawer, they were like 33 slaps in the face. Did you ever feel a shred of regret when you gave them to me?" He fell silent for a long time before finally murmuring in a weary voice, "I did regret it. I tried to run from it, too. But Bianca, in the business world, no one comes out untouched. You turn one down, and there's always a second, a third. Eventually, there's one you can't say no to. Once you've done it once, it happens again. It's like an addiction. Once you get a taste, it's hard to quit." But I never took it seriously. "Bianca, I never forgot. It's always been you that I loved." "And what about Jenny?" I suddenly found it hard to breathe. I pushed open the window and let the cold wind rush in. Alexander went quiet. I gave a small, bitter laugh. "If I hadn't found out about her, were you planning to keep her hidden away forever? Besides, you two even have a child now." His silence was like a slap across my face. Soundless, but painful. Any explanation he offered was rendered meaningless by that silence. I was starting to feel cold, so I closed the window. Then I said my final words into the phone. "I've handed the divorce over to my lawyer. Talk to him. As for anything else, I don't think we have anything left to say." I ended the call, cutting off his desperate voice. Maybe it was the unfamiliar bed, but I couldn't sleep that night. The next morning, with dark circles under my eyes. I dragged myself into the classroom. Thanks to yesterday's introduction, the kids were noticeably more lively when they saw me. As soon as I stepped through the door, I heard a chorus of excited Miss Moo. Their bright voices lifted my spirits. I handed out the candies I had brought with me. The children lit up with joy, excitedly sharing the flavors with their classmates. I turned to the blackboard and began writing out the topic for the next lesson. Listening to their chatter didn't annoy me, it actually brought me a strange sense of calm. I had always liked children. I used to dream about having a child with Alexander. He was handsome, with sharp eyebrows and clear eyes. Our child would surely be just as beautiful. I imagined teaching him to read and write, telling him stories about how his parents fell in love, showing him how to love someone with his whole heart. Teacher, why are you crying? The question snapped me back to reality. I looked down to see a small child standing by my leg. She was only 9, with a round, rosy face and eyes that sparkled. She opened her palm to reveal a single piece of candy. Teacher, this candy is really sweet. You should eat it, it'll make you feel better. Children live in such a simple world. Their emotions aren't weighed down by all the complexities we carry. I smiled and shook my head, wiping the tears from the corners of my eyes. Teacher won't eat it. You go ahead. It's just chalk dust in my eye. I'll be fine after I rub it out. Chapter 6. I'd been in the village for over half a month. Life here wasn't as convenient as in the city, but the air was certainly cleaner. My lawyer had called me twice. Alexander refused to sign the divorce papers. The lawyer had even delivered them to him in person, but he didn't even glance at them, just tore them up on the spot. With a sigh, the lawyer said, Miss Moo, maybe it'd be better if you talked to Mr. Wang yourself. We're not getting anywhere like this. If Alexander wouldn't sign, the divorce couldn't go through. I said I understood, but instead of going to Alexander, I called Jenny. She was clearly surprised when she picked up. Well, Bianca, you actually called me? What a rare honor. I ignored her snide tone and got straight to the point. Do you want to marry Alexander? There was a pause. Then she spoke. Uncertain. You're kidding, right? You'd give Alexander to me? What was so great about Alexander? After everything he'd done, did she really think I still wanted to keep him like some prized trophy? Just answer the question. Jenny let out a sarcastic laugh. He's so perfect. Who wouldn't want to marry him? Good. That made things simpler. I leaned against a tree, watching the students playing soccer not far away. The sight calmed me down. That ball had just arrived a few days ago, and already it was covered in dirt. I was already thinking about getting them a new toy. You said you were pregnant, right? The Wang family's been pressuring me to have a kid, but I never conceived. If you show them your pregnancy report, they'll probably welcome you with open arms. Heck, they might even throw a full-blown wedding parade. Honestly, I must have been out of my mind, encouraging the mistress to swoop in and marry my husband, even offering her advice on how to do it. Really, who else could be this gracious? Jenny gasped, shocked. Are you insane? Alexander's your husband. I was perfectly sane. I was just done humiliating myself. Trust me, you'll succeed. Then suddenly, another voice cut in. Oh really? You sound awfully sure. Alexander's cold voice came from the other end. My heart skipped, like I'd just been caught red-handed sneaking around. He gave a bitter laugh. Bianca, wow, here I am trying to resolve things between us, and you're out here creating new messes. Do you hate me that much? Hate? No, but I didn't love him anymore either. I lowered my eyes and said calmly, Alexander, if you had just signed the papers, I wouldn't have had to scheme with her. So, do us both a favor and sign the damn divorce. Not a chance. His voice was low and icy, practically shaking with anger. He'd rarely lost his temper with me. No, he never got angry with me, no matter how unreasonable I was. He always gave in to me. He used to say I was the only Bianca in the world. If he lost me, there'd be no one else. He'd never do anything he'd regret. And yet, he still cheated again and again. So now, this anger, this so-called determination, was nothing but a bad joke. Alexander, if you won't divorce me willingly, are you forcing me to sue you? My tone held no emotion, just quiet resolve. I had already consulted my lawyer. If Alexander refused an amicable divorce, I could take him to court, and I would win. It would just be more of a hassle. I'd have to provide proof of his affairs. Ironically, those 33 gold bracelets could serve as perfect evidence. Gifts paid for with betrayal, stained with guilt. We both fell silent. I could practically picture the look on his face, lips tightly pressed. His eyes dark and cold, like someone owed him millions. The school bell rang. I didn't have the time, or the patience, to keep going back and forth with him. Alexander, if you won't sign, then prepare for a lawsuit. Yes, it would be a hassle, but if it meant cutting off this ugly part of my life once and for all, I welcomed the hassle. Most of the kids here were left behind children. The world outside was something distant and unfamiliar to them. To give them a glimpse of something new, Mario signed them up for a dance competition in the city. Another teacher who could dance and I became their choreographers. The schoolyard became our rehearsal stage. Suddenly, a car horn drew the children's attention. Then a loudspeaker crackled to life. Teacher Bianca, someone is here to see you. Teacher Bianca, please come to the office. My brows twitched. The kids burst into giggles. I had no choice but to grab my coat and rush toward the main building. Mario, couldn't this have been a phone call? You just had to announce it to the whole playground. Now my students are laughing at me. I pushed open the office door, only to see a guest. His back looked strangely familiar, and the moment he turned around, all my words caught in my throat. Alexander's eyes lit up when he saw me, though he quickly suppressed any excitement. Mario patted my shoulder and grinned. Miss Moo, not my fault. I called you twice, you didn't pick up. I checked my phone. Sure enough, 2 missed calls from Mario. Calmly, I said, I must have had the music on too loud. Didn't hear it. Mario waved it off. No worries, you're here now. Then he pointed at Alexander and said, this is Mr. Wong. He's here to discuss funding for the school. Says he knows you, Miss Moo, so I'll let you take care of him. I have class. You two enjoy your chat. Chapter 7. Now it was just Alexander and me left in the office. The small space felt even more cramped with his tall frame inside. The silence was heavy, until I finally broke it. Why are you here? To talk about the divorce? The spark in Alexander's eyes instantly dimmed. He said in a low voice, is that really all we have left to talk about? Divorce? He spoke as if I were the one who had done something wrong. But honestly, what else was there for us to discuss? Oh, right. The funding. You're here to sponsor the students? Alexander's face darkened, his lips pressed into a thin line, and a fire lit in his eyes. Do you have any idea what I've been going through these days? I've had to manage the company, deal with that child. Do you know how much I miss you, Bianca? I'm exhausted, but every time you open your mouth, it's divorce, divorce, divorce. Could you at least show some compassion? And that child, was I the one who made it? I stared at him expressionlessly. In that moment, all his composure shattered. I spoke slowly. If we're not discussing the divorce or the sponsorship, then I'm not staying. I turned to leave, but was suddenly pulled back against a firm chest. Alexander's arms were strong, nearly suffocating me. He buried his face in the crook of my neck, his breath hot and ticklish against my skin. Bianca, please don't go. Forgive me. Forgive me. Bianca, I'll never do it again. I've handled everything with Jenny. She won't talk. And she'll never appear in front of us again. Please. Forgive me. His tears wet the side of my neck, but his choked sobs didn't stir even the smallest bit of pity in me. His betrayal was a thorn driven deep into my heart, aching all the way to my bones. I would never give him another chance to hurt me, even if, once upon a time, I truly loved him. Alexander, let's part peacefully. You can't turn back time, and what you've done won't just vanish. Believe me, this isn't about hate. You're just struggling to accept that I'm leaving. Once you adjust, you'll find someone new to love. I won't. Alexander shook his head, stubbornly refusing. Bianca, I'll die without you. He sounded so pitiful. He knew I was soft-hearted, knew I could never resist when he used that sweet, vulnerable tone, like a lost little bunny. Whenever he wanted something, all he had to do was act cute, and I'd cave instantly. But now, I was sick of it. Why couldn't he act like a grown man and accept things with dignity? I closed my eyes and said coldly, then go die. His arms slackened just a little. Alexander spun me around by the shoulders. Disbelief etched across his face. What did you say? I met his shocked gaze and enunciated each word clearly. Didn't you say you'd die without me? Then go ahead and die. His lips trembled. Why, you'd really let me die? He searched my face for some trace of hesitation, but I stayed calm. Alexander, do you remember our anniversary? His expression turned guilty. I continued, ruthless. That day, I waited in that hotel room all afternoon. Meanwhile, you were in the room next door, tangled up with Jenny, and yet you had no trouble being heartless. When Jenny had her miscarriage, you stayed with her for a whole week, not even a phone call for me. You threw me aside like I didn't matter. So why the hell should I care whether you live or die? His face contorted with pain, but it still wasn't enough. Oh, by the way, on the night Jenny miscarried, I was ready to talk about the divorce. I had packed everything. If you'd come home, we would have been done long ago. Those gold bracelets in the drawer? Take them. I'm disgusted just looking at them. Alexander's face went pale. He stammered. How did you know what happened that night? Who told you? I gave a cold laugh and pulled out my phone, showing him the messages Jenny had sent me over the last 6 months. Jenny might be the other woman, but I have to thank her. If not for her, I might have stayed blind to all the filth you were doing behind my back. Alexander, do you honestly think there's still a chance for us? He scrolled through the messages, his voice trembling. So you knew, this whole time? You were just pretending? His eyes turned red. He looked devastated. He probably never imagined I could endure it all without showing a crack. I gave a bitter smile. Honestly, I'm impressed with myself, too. I can't believe I held it together this long. Alexander, there was a time I hoped you'd regret it all, that you'd grow a conscience and finally let go of those flings. But you didn't. You reveled in them. That's not true. Alexander shook his head desperately. I did regret it. I couldn't control myself. Bianca, I'll change. I will change. Okay? Just forgive me one more time. Just once. No. His eyes dimmed. But he didn't leave. Instead, he stayed in the school dorms. He made a large donation, and Mario naturally treated him like an honored guest. I did my best to ignore his gaze and continued teaching the kids how to dance. But for someone so good-looking, so new, the children couldn't help but be fascinated. Miss Moo, that big brother keeps looking at you. Miss Moo, is he your boyfriend? Is he trying to date you? One question after another, each more piercing than the last. But I couldn't exactly tell them who Alexander really was. So I forced a cold expression. Focus. The competition's in a few days. You don't want to miss it, do you? No. We want to go. Chapter 8. Alexander had a strong presence. Even though I tried my best to ignore him, I could still hear his name constantly being brought up around me. Especially Mario. Every time he saw me, he'd pat my shoulder with genuine joy and say, Miss Moo, your boyfriend is really something. Good-looking, kind-hearted. Just yesterday he fixed the kids' basketball hoop. You've got great taste. I forced a smile that didn't quite reach my eyes. But I had to admit, seeing Alexander laughing and playing around with the kids like one of them, that was surprising. I remembered one New Year's Eve, when his little nephew ran up to him with greasy hands and hugged his leg. Alexander immediately shoved him off with a dark expression, pointing at his little face and snapping, Stay away from me. If you dare smear those filthy hands on me again, I'll throw you out. And now, here he was, in designer clothes, letting village kids climb all over him without the slightest irritation. In fact, with a smile on his face, I looked away and chuckled lightly. Mario, he's not my boyfriend. Mario scratched his nose, clearly awkward, and left. On the day of the competition, one child was missing. I found him with Alexander, who was helping dust the dirt off the boy's pants. When the child saw me, he looked up and called out cheerfully, Miss Moo. Alexander also looked up and smiled. Bianca, aren't they adorable? If only we had a child of our own. The moment he said it, both our expressions froze. I lowered my eyes and gently pulled the child to my side. I'm taking them to the competition now. Alexander, you've been here long enough. It's time to go back. He had stayed for a month. He hadn't done anything particularly outrageous, but it still felt wrong. Alexander's voice was softer now, touched with bitterness. Bianca, is there really no chance for us anymore? I shook my head. His eyes reddened instantly, and he let out a sigh, laughing bitterly. I understand. Then let me come to the competition with you, just this once. I was about to refuse, but he quickly added, don't worry, I won't bother you anymore. I just want to accompany you for this one last thing. Once it's over, I'll leave. I'll sign the divorce papers too. We looked after the kids together, walking one in front of the other. After they changed into their dance costumes, Mario suggested we take a group photo for memory's sake. I stood in the corner. Alexander quietly positioned himself beside me. When I didn't push him away, I saw him quietly breathe a sigh of relief. After the photo, Mario had them printed and asked me to bring one to Alexander. I found him encouraging the nervous kids backstage. When I handed him the photo, he took it like it was a precious treasure, carefully slipping it into his pocket. We stood there, saying nothing, watching the children dance on stage. Suddenly, a sharp scream pierced the air. A gust of wind swept past me. Before I could react, Alexander had already sprinted onto the stage and shielded the screaming child with his body. A massive stage beam crashed down on his back. Panic broke out above and below the stage. I ran toward the chaos, my brain blank, running purely on instinct. Mario grabbed me and shouted, Miss Moo, don't go up there. Something else might fall. My eyes were red as I shouted back, there's a child up there. Not just a child, Alexander too. Mario froze, then quickly said, I'll go. I'll get the child down and I'll bring Alexander, too. But I didn't listen. When I reached the stage, the staff stopped me from going any further. I watched, helpless, as Alexander lay there, blood spilling from his mouth. The heavy beam pinned him down, but he still held the child tightly beneath him. As if sensing my presence, he looked toward me. Despite the pain on his face, he managed a grin. His lips moved, and more blood came out. He furrowed his brow in agony, but his eyes stayed locked on mine, filled with 1,000 unsaid things. Objects were still falling from above. No one dared to act recklessly. I didn't know how long passed before the ambulance and police arrived. Alexander was carried onto a stretcher. I held the child in my arms, about to follow, but then stopped myself. Mario quickly took the child from me and comforted him. Miss Moo, go with Mr. Wong. He needs someone with him right now. I shook my head. Mario gave me a gentle push. Go on. I can handle the kids. But if something happens to Mr. Wong, we'll all have to answer for it. Won't we? I took a cab to the hospital and kept asking around until I found out Alexander was in the emergency room. The doctors said his condition was serious. I thought of all the blood he'd coughed up. It had to be severe internal injuries at least. I couldn't sit still. My palms were slick with sweat. Finally, the ER doors opened, and Alexander was wheeled out. The anesthesia hadn't worn off yet. He lay pale and still on the bed. The doctor spoke to me, clearly relieved. Alexander was seriously injured, but fortunately, his life wasn't in danger. When he woke up, I was reporting the situation to Mario over the phone. Miss Moo, don't worry about the kids. They're all fine. And it's thanks to Mr. Wong. If not for him, I don't even want to imagine what could have happened. Yes, thanks to Alexander. If not for him, that child might not have survived. I clutched my phone tightly, heart pounding with a mixture of regret and guilt. Then a hoarse voice rang out behind me. I'm not dead yet. You don't have to speak like I already am. I turned around and met Alexander's gaze, smiling faintly at me from the bed. Chapter 9. He reached his hand out toward me. I walked over, but didn't take it. The light in Alexander's smiling eyes dimmed. You still won't forgive me? That's a separate matter. My throat was dry and sore as I spoke. I had been terrified he might die in that accident. But that didn't mean I'd forgive him for cheating. He gave a weak smile, a heavy sadness cloaking his entire body. Bianca, do you know what I was thinking when that beam came crashing down? I thought, it's over. I'll never get Bianca back. I was going to die. Full of regret, I lowered my gaze, forcing back the warmth building in my eyes. Alexander chuckled softly again, but when I saw how desperate you looked, searching for me, I thought, maybe it was worth it. Maybe. Just maybe. This accident could change how you saw me. My eyes welled up as I whispered. Is it really worth it, risking your life just to seem heroic in my eyes? Absolutely. He didn't hesitate. His expression was serious and sincere. I knew if something had happened to that child, you'd never find peace. So he rushed forward, without a second thought, even knowing he might die. Tears blurred my vision. Alexander was always like this. Once he decided on something, nothing could stop him, not even death. Sometimes. That scared me, because that kind of reckless intensity could destroy him one day. His warm fingertip brushed away the tear from the corner of my eye. He smiled faintly. Don't cry, Bianca. I can't stand to see you cry. He looked deflated, but also like he had finally made peace with something. There was gentleness in his eyes, and finality. When I get better, let's go get the divorce. I nodded, my voice hoarse. Okay. I took some time off and stayed at the hospital to care for Alexander. Strangely, we didn't argue at all, nor did we talk about love again. It was like none of it had ever happened. We returned to the way things used to be, but illusions don't last forever. The day the doctor announced he was ready to be discharged, the bubble finally burst. I went back with Alexander, and we completed the divorce paperwork smoothly. When we stepped out of the civil affairs office, he looked completely deflated, his smile twisted into something that looked more like he was crying. Bianca, can we still be friends? He asked so cautiously, as if afraid one wrong word would ruin even that tiny hope. That love, it felt like a lifetime ago. I smiled. Sure. Alexander lit up, so overwhelmed he couldn't even find the words. Then I added, Alexander, I forgive you. I forgave the betrayal. I forgave the hate I once held. Alexander's eyes turned red in an instant. That forgiveness meant I'd truly let go. That man, inside and out, would no longer leave a trace in my heart. Chapter 10. After my leave ended, Alexander drove me to the train station. He had wanted to take me all the way back to the school, but I refused. That stage accident had left a shadow in my heart. I couldn't bring myself to let him go back there. He understood and didn't press the issue. He carried my suitcase and walked me onto the train. But he didn't leave. I sat inside, while he stood outside the carriage window. Someone next to me chuckled. Your boyfriend? I shook my head, smiling lightly. No, just a friend. From now on, that's all Alexander and I would be, just friends. Familiar, but never close again.